So in this video we will see how to work on the views. View is nothing but a virtual table. Go with the SQL prompt. So here I am connecting to the original database administrator system. Here I have the table called sailor. Sailors, I think. Yeah, here I have the table called sailors. 10 records that we have. I would like to maintain the sailor ID and sailor name as a separate table. So generally we are doing in such cases we have to be created another table with a table name and then followed by two attributes SID and SName, and we are in a position to insert all these 10 records. That is a time taking procedure. Instead of doing like that, we can do the same thing with the views only. So view is nothing but a virtually table. Already the table is existent. From the table we are creating another table. So that is called as a views. To create a view, the syntax for the view is create view name. For example, here the view name, here I am using the sail1. That view as select of SID comma SName from sailors table. Now the view is created. So what are the sail1 that we have? Sail1 is also a table, so but it is a virtual table. To retrieve the table value, select star from sail1. That means that SID and SName that we have created. For example, I would like to create another view. Select create view name as sail2, SID and SName from sailors. Okay, so here if you identify that the table the table contains sailors table is all the values of a sailors information. For example, I would like to maintain whose sailors ratings are above 5 as a separate table. All the information of instead of SID and SName. So for that, select here I am writing a query. Select star from sailors where rating greater than 5, whatever the sailors that we have, that all sailors information I am maintaining in a sail2. So I would like to retrieve that sail2 value. Select star from sail2. So here sail2 is considered as a duplicated table, virtual table, and sailor is nothing but a original table. Okay, so like that we can create a views, and we have to work on that insert, delete, update, these three operations on the views. Okay, so now we can retrieve the table values of sailors information original table. So here we have the 10 records. So here I would like to insert one record, insert into sailors values. So here I am defining that sailor ID is 100, sailor name here I am considering is an ABC, sailor rating is a rating of 9 is a rating, and sailor age here I am considering is a 40 years. Now one record is inserted in the sailors table. So now cross check with the sailors table is that record is inserted or not. So to retrieve the table values, you have to use the select star from sailors. So we have 11 records in the sailors table, that is nothing but 100 ABC 940 is inserted. Now cross check with the duplicated table virtual table sail1 and sail2. So cross check with the sail2. Now sail2 is also having that record. Now cross check with the sail1. The sail1 is also having. That means that if we done any insertion on the virtual table, that will automatically reflect on the virtual tables also. Suppose if we done any insertion on the virtual table, for example, I would like to insert sail2 values. So here I would like to use that insertion one more record on the table called sail2 values. So here I am considering as a sailor ID is 101. Here sailor name is considered as a BCD, and sailor rating is 10, and sailor age I am considering as a different values 56. Now we have inserted a record in the virtual table. Now we can cross check with the sail2. Select star from sail2. Now the record BCD record is inserted in the sail2. So now actually we have done the insertion in the virtual table, and we would like to cross check with the original table also. Select star from sailors. Now the same record that will be reflected on the original table also. That means that if we have done an insertion operation original table, that will reflect on the virtual table. If you have done the insertion on the virtual table, that will reflect on the original table. Vice versa, that we have insertion operation. Okay, so now we will cross check with the updation. Okay, so now update seller whose seller id 101 as a king. Update the table name called sellers, set s name is treated as a king, to whom you are updating, where seller id is considered as a 101. Now one update was done on the sellers table. Now cross check with the original table of sellers. Now the sellers table is, the record was updated. Now cross check with the sellers original table related duplicated tables, cell 1. Cross check with the spellings, cell 1. Now it's also reflected. Now once again cross check with the another view that we created based on the original table, that's also reflected. If you have the updation on the original table, that will reflect on the duplicated table. That is nothing but views also reflected. Suppose if you have done the modification on the duplicated table, is it reflected on the original table or not? So that means that in the cell 2 we have a king that we have. So now we can update cell 2 set s name as, instead of king, here I am using that queen, where SID here I am considering as a 101. Here we have done the updation on the cell 2. Now we can cross check that updation was done or not. Select star from cell 2. Cell 2 was updated. Parallelly cross check with the version label. Version label is sellers. Now the version label is also reflected. That means that like an insertion, like updation also. That means that if you have done any modification, if any insertion or if any modification on the version table, that will reflect on the virtual table. If you have done on virtual table, that will reflect on the version table. So like that same thing, delete also we will check it. So now I would like to delete a record, delete from cell 2, where SID is equivalent to 101. Whatever the record that we have inserted, in the duplicated table whose SID is 101, that record I would like to remove from that cell 2 table. Now one row is deleted from the cell 2. Now cross check with the version table. Is the reflection is affected on the version table or not? Previously we have 101, now it is removed from the version table also. So like that in the version table we can cross check. So that means that delete from sellers where SID is treated as 100. So from the sellers table whose SID is 100, that record that we would like to delete. Cross check with the spelling. Now one row is removed from the sellers table. Now cross check with the version table. Now one row is removed, and cross check with the duplicated table also. Cell 1, that record is removed. Cell 2, that record also removed. So that means that if you have done an insertion, deletion, updation on the version table, that will reflect on the duplicated table also. That is nothing but virtual table also. If you have done the same thing on the virtual table or duplicated table, the same thing that will be reflected on the virtual table. So that's a vice versa combination. This is called as a views, and we can create views for one table only, and we are not in a position to create a views for one or more number of tables as a combination. Thank you for watching.